I am a true believer that any program can allow children to have authentic childhoods. It doesn't matter where you're located. It doesn't matter if you have a building or if you're all outside. It doesn't matter if you're in a church or if you're in a home. I think that it is not the building. It is a mindset, and it is an environment that surpasses the walls.
Hi, this is Rusty Keeler, and you're listening to the Play Nature Podcast, where we talk about play, nature, playing in nature, and the nature of play. I'm glad you're here. Let's have a listen.
Hi, Kisha.
Hello, Rusty. So happy to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you too. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
I am looking forward to having this conversation with you, as always.
Yes, we always get into some good topics and conversation, and so I'm looking forward to diving in. But before we do, let me read your bio. Kisha has been working alongside children for 30 years and currently owns Discovery Natural Learning Center, a unique small program focused on holistic child development and authentic childhoods. Her advocacy mission is fulfilled through her establishment of an organization called Play Empowers, which supports and engages play-positive educators, parents, and policymakers. She is currently spending her days in nature alongside children in Adamstown, Maryland.
My favorite place to be.
Yay, yay. Well, tell us about that place. What's it like where this natural place that you're spending time with children in?
It's been such an evolution and in a journey for me, which works for my personality because I'm very much a dreamer. Right now, in this beautiful process that I'm going through of working with young children, I'm located in a retreat center. So I was just blessed with the opportunity to move on the campus of this 300-acre place that was designed for children. Like, it's been there for 100 some years, and it was always a school for children. So
Whoa.
that's where it started, and then it developed into this retreat center, and it's really mission on bringing people closer to the earth, caring for creation, and being out on the land. So when I was reading the backstory of the space, and I had hosted a retreat there many years ago and fell in love. So to kind of go full circle and be welcomed into a space like that just felt like it was serendipitous.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we are now. We're right there in the middle of campus. And what I love about being in the middle of campus is there are lots of adults who have to see children play and like
Ah.
see children in their natural state. And that was kind of, if I'm honest, the thing that made me feel uncomfortable at first about the idea, because we've been enjoying our little private life secluded,
Mm-hmm.
amongst the trees in our last location. So to be kind of put in the midst of the adults going zones was nerve-wracking to me. But now I see the power of that, right? Adults walk by and they hear the children laughing and they see them engaging in these really things that you don't typically see children engaging in, like something as simple as climbing up a slide or carrying heavy pieces of lumber across the playground. And you can see the adults and teenagers and older children's eyes light up, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, whoa. And I've heard more times than I can count how they wish their childhood was like that. Or, wow, that really brings me back. So it's wonderful to see adults experiencing this in ways that they probably normally wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Very different than the elementary school playground,
Mhm.
and yeah, where things are a little more restrictive. Did you say going up a slide?
Going up the slide. And it is just, if you just watch children climbing up a slide,
Mm-hmm.
it is like, it's so beautiful. It's a
Yeah.
dance.
Yeah.
It is like this, you can see their muscles like working and their mind working, and it's not easy. It's not
Right.
easy to get up the
Yes.
slide.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a progression, from the first idea. And first of all, before the idea comes to even do it, it's being in an environment where the possibility can even be considered, right?
For sure.
Just the possibility that I am allowed use this slide in ways that aren't typically permitted. So
Hmm.
I see that on the face of new children who come from programs that have rules around slides,
Yeah.
and they're just looking at me like, "Do you see him? He's going up. Like, is that okay?"
Hmm.
And then once you get past the idea that you can try this thing, the process of discovering that you can do it. Like, it's hard. You're going to slip, you're going to fall, you're going to struggle, but you can do it. So it's such a big metaphor for a lot of the work that we do.
Ah, right. Interesting. You know, another thing about the slide is that it is, as far as playground goes or playground design, like it is just like everything else. It's like there's a structure and things coming off of it that are inviting the child, right? It's inviting the child up. But we have these preconceived notions or rules that we think we have to have of like, oh no, that's for down. Other
Mhm.
things are for up, the spiral, different kinds of
Mhm.
things. And yet there it is, inviting children, come on up, try this thing, and you'll be challenged, but at the same time, it's actually a pretty safe thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. And we have two slides side by side. So that adds another level of difficulty, because it's funny because children are going to, once they master something, they're just going to add another layer of difficulty, right? They're going to keep challenging themselves right where they are. So you take two slides and they can offer the perfect amount of challenge to 100 different children, because they're going to use them how they
Yeah.
need to use them. And we have some that have begun sliding with half their body on one side, half their body on the other side,
Yeah.
dangling through the space between the two.
Whoa.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
two slides provides this social challenge, because somebody's going down, somebody's going up. How do
Yeah.
we, and even one slide does that, but it just complicates it in that beautiful way that they then have to practice some social emotional things. They have to set some rules of their own. They have to either abide by them or shift the rules. And it's just so much happening with a slide. And
Yeah.
that's just one teeny aspect of like their play outside.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm going to back up just for our listeners,
Uh-huh.
thinking about slides and stuff, because one slide that is famous to me, I loved for years seeing pictures of your incredible spaces, kind of each step along the way, right? You're dreaming and starting small and starting
Mhm.
big and
Mhm.
doing all these
Going back
different
small.
yeah, right, doing all over the place, but keep going forward. And I'm looking forward to talking to about that, the kind of the dream and how you get to where you want to go
Mhm.
too. But also, I've always loved all the scenes in all your amazing outdoor spaces, and the whole thing of like this, the quote from Playworkers of like, they ain't pretty.
Yeah, they ain't
They,
pretty.
they ain't pretty. They're beautiful. I always say, has she ever cut her grass? And the answer is no. And I say, I love it. I love it. Yeah, this wild, amazing mess in one
Mhm.
way, and at the same
Mhm.
time, this wild, amazing, endless place of endless possibility for
Yes.
children's play and growth and learning and fun, joy, the good, the bad, the emotional,
Mhm.
the everything. And the picture on the cover of my book, Adventures in Risky Play, is from you. You took that incredible picture, and we'll look at pictures at the end here because
Mhm.
I want to stare at that picture with you a little
Mhm.
bit and talk about it. But just to for everyone to know, like this is you. You're the person who
Mhm.
took that picture and created that opportunity for whatever is about to happen in that
Mhm.
next, in that series in that
Mhm.
picture. So that's slides and challenge. And I've been thinking, I show another picture. This isn't from your center because it's like a standard piece of play equipment, but there's like a little girl climbing on the outside of like a bridge, the elevated bridge. And of course, the audience is like, no, we can't allow that. But if you think about children's progression of like growth from toddling, wobbling, and then starting to climb, and everything else, and to adulthood, like okay, you reach a point in your development when you are developmentally ready to walk on the outside of a
Mhm.
bridge, right? Like
Yep.
as an adult, hopefully we can, or maybe we're past the point of being there, wanting
Mhm.
to do that. But every child gets to that point, and yet
Mhm.
as adults, we have these kind of defined rules. And I've always seen you as someone who almost like just puts those aside, and you're kind of
Mhm.
looking at the child and the scene and saying yes, and then
Mhm.
magic happens, and then challenge happens. But I want to talk about that philosophy.
I think the root of that, of being able to do that, is relationship. Like, you really have to know the children, the individual child. You have to not only know the child, but know their process. right?
Mhm,
If
mhm.
I'm really in tune, I know what they're ready for. I know
Mhm.
what they're capable of. And this settles my soul. Like I'm not freaking out because I know that child. I know that he has worked on he's gone through the process. He wasn't lifted up there by someone, he's
Yeah.
not wobbly. This child is has the confidence, has the know-how and has the experience to go to this next step. And I think that's rooted in deep observation and authentic engagement with the children in front of us. It's different for every child too. Like there are times when I'm like, "Oh my goodness." A
Mhm.
child might see another child do something and then think that they can jump to that level, that step and find out, "Oh no, I can't." So at that point my assessment is not on stopping that child from learning that they can't. It's on looking around and seeing, are there dangers? How can I make this safe for this child to learn that they can or they can't? And sometimes that means throwing a pillow under where they are, making sure there's nothing hard for them to fall on, maybe pointing out the edge of something so that they're aware of it. But it really is an intentional connection and relationship with the child, with the space, with their development, with all of the things. It's just like a concoction. And
Mhm,
you
mhm.
have to be in tune to do that.
It's so interesting because one could look at the pictures, and again, we'll look at some pictures
Hmm.
and think it's a free for all.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is it's actually the opposite. It's anything but a free for all.
Hmm.
Now, children are free to explore and try things out and go, but as far as the educator, the adult, it's not a free for all at all. You're very aware and in tune.
Mhm. Yep. Even when I'm intentionally trying to look like I'm not aware and in tune, because sometimes my eye not to, especially to the child, my eye not looking like I'm looking at them is part of what they need in order to look inside themselves. Because we want this to be intrinsic work. We don't want it to be performative. We don't want it to be that
Hmm.
they're paying more attention to us looking at them than they are to their own limbs working. So sometimes to an outside eye, they might think that I'm not watching, I'm not in tune, I don't know what's going on. And in fact, I am all over it. Like I am in
Hmm.
tune and connected. And the same thing goes with sometimes that eye needs to make contact. It is
Hmm.
such an intricate dance. And you're right, it's not a free for all. It really isn't.
Hmm. Hmm. And I say that to people when we talk about risky play of like, no, it doesn't mean, oh, you're just saying yes to everything and turning your back and taking the,
Yeah.
whatever,
Oh, good luck.
coffee
We're not
break.
doing
Yeah.
that. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no. If you want to really support children in their, their authentic growth and, trying new things, you have to really be on your toes. You have
Yeah,
to
you
really
do.
be, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more, you're more on your toes. It's interesting because I would say I'm more relaxed and more engaged and it feels good. At first, when I first came to this new location and I was able to like really nestle into the beauty around me, I kept saying, "Oh, I'm tired. I'm tired. I feel tired." I said, "No, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm at peace. This is peace.
Oh.
I feel a sense of peace and comfort in the knowing." And the more I get to know the children and the families and the environment and the space, that sense of peace grows within me. So it is just, when you're in tune, it's beautiful.
Hmm. How many children do you have? How many adults
Mhm.
are with the kids?
So, as you said before, going from big to small to all these things,
Yeah.
currently I have, last year, I'm licensed for 15.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
intentionally a small group.
Yeah.
And right now I have 8, and I
Okay.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think this year I said we'll do 10. Um, but I love 8. Like it
Mm.
has been so, I know it's not realistic for everybody. And there are programs of all different sizes. I really
Sure.
enjoyed 13. I love 15, which is why I got licensed for 15. I
Okay.
think there are positives in all. When you have 15 kids, there's more action. There's more opportunity for small groups to form. They're more transient. All these things are beautiful and I love it. But right now, this particular group of 8 children is such a good mix. It's probably helped by the fact that most of them, they're on their second or third year at Discovery. So they've
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
developed this internal voice and belief in themselves because they are in the part of the process where they've developed those things. I can really observe more. I could really support the little nuances that need to be supported. There's just a freedom of my availability
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
the more children you have, the harder that becomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think of, with that size, and you're joining them on their life journey,
Hmm.
right? In those years, right? And so you see the changes, and everyone's growing together or having these experiences together, and you're able to be that present with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And being available when they just need to sit on me, when they just need to, tell me about their grandma's house, or, when the kids come to me with 5 books under their arms. I'm not too busy to have those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing went when I had 20 children. I just made it a point to make that the most important thing. And part of that comes from not having this arbitrary schedule that comes from, what was given to me or what was pre-planned, kind of divorcing myself from more typical preschool things. The
Mm-hmm.
normal preschool
Prescribed
yes,
ways of doing
yes,
things, or the
yes.
norms, or that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've always felt like you found your own path through it all, and inspirations from different. There's
Yes.
this is there's a certain genre, right, of
Hmm.
saying yes and supporting that, and not worrying about those same kind of norms. But well, what would you say your philosophy is then? What is the thread that has been kind of going throughout the different
Going,
centers of
I think
discovery?
when I moved to this new location and I changed the name to Discovery Natural Learning, I think it's because I'm really leaning on what we're naturally born to do and what is just like inside of us when we're created.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think my philosophy is not fighting that and,
Mm.
providing a place for that to rest and grow and develop and be nurtured. And that is where I'm at right now.
So like supporting the natural way of being?
Yes, literally. Yes.
Huh.
Supporting that in children, but also I feel like if even adults, if we really
Hmm.
sit with ourself and our innermost self and try to get to know that, it could change our own lives. It can change humanity. It'll definitely change the way that we work with young children. So I just love that this work is ever changing and ever growing. And I need that. Like I am ADHD girl. Like I
Hmm.
need the growth and the process and the progress. And it's just so fulfilling in that way.
Well, I love that you're at a retreat center. Right.
I
So you're
know.
so
I
right. So
know.
you're so right. But I feel like, early childhood centers and settings that are really in tune, they are retreat centers.
Exactly.
They are
Yep.
and especially with this kind of, your kind of philosophy, and so many people's, listeners' philosophies of like, wait, we're kind of trying to hold back the world a bit
Mhm.
so that children, we can nurture that and support that inner self, that inner
Mhm.
growth of the child. A
Oh
retreat.
my gosh,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And part of me moving into different types of locations, I was like, all right, you got to put your money where your mouth is because you said anybody can do this and you can do it anywhere. And I am a true believer that any program can allow children to have authentic childhoods. It doesn't matter where you're located. It doesn't matter if you have a building or if you're all outside. It doesn't matter if you're in a church or if you're in a home. It doesn't matter if you're in an old school building or wherever. I think that it is not the building. It is a mindset and it is an environment that surpasses the walls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. So, how can people, if people feel like, well, I'm not on a 300-acre retreat center, or
Mhm,
I don't have a giant yard, or what, but
mhm,
what is it in their hearts, or what's the mindset, or what are small
mhm.
ways that people can start to, I don't know, head in that direction that they probably will resonate with? But
Yeah.
what we talked about before about like the preschool programming, or what we think we're supposed to
Mhm.
be, how can people start stepping or feel more confident to step in this direction?
I think what I've always tried to do is when, let's say I hire a new teacher and they come and they've either never worked with children or they've only worked in traditional programs. The
Yeah.
first thing that I ask them to do is do nothing, just sit and observe children.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Huh.
Because when they say a picture is 1,000 words, well, watching children and just watching them and even everyone's going to come with their own lens, right? If you've never experienced it, you're going to come with your own lens. You might be watching children and thinking, oh my goodness, I can't believe they're doing that. Oh, when's she going to cut her grass? All those things you're thinking. I want you to just watch children and hear those thoughts. And then after I have them watch children and hear those thoughts, we discuss that after. So we can start to unpack those
Mm.
thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
find the roots. Like, well, and sometimes you can dispel your own thoughts. Like, he's going to fall. And then at the end of an hour of watching the child do it, you are like, well, he didn't fall. Whoa, let me hone into his fingers. Look at those grips. He's really holding on. He's looking at where his hand goes. So you kind of work with the adult on really seeing what's in front of them and starting to like tamp down the make believe, which is like that voice that tells us all these things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
That, the more you observe children, you see that they don't happen, it kind of shifts the balance. So
Yeah.
I think before you really do anything outside of yourself, it's the self work part. And that starts for me with observing children, looking at photos, seeing it in action really helps people to believe. Seeing is believing, they say. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to do,
Mm-hmm.
I think starting there. But if you're in a program right now and you're working with children and you're thinking, this sounds interesting to me, I think I want to try this. I just say tomorrow when you go to work or when the children come to your home, you plan to take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes to just sit back and observe. And sometimes I give them the task of just writing down everything you see. Not what you're thinking. That's you
Mm.
keep that in your head, but write down just what you see. Like exactly what you see. And then when you go back and read that and look at that and think about that and talk about that, it's just this reflective exercise,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that shifts you.
I think it's amazing that difference between what we see or what we think we see because we're here in the back of
Mhm.
our minds they'll poke their eye out, they're gonna fall, they're gonna hurt
Mhm.
themselves and all that stuff. But if you give the adults the freedom to not have to react or act,
Mhm.
and then noticing too. I mean, I feel like so much of this is more like psychology for the adults
Mhm.
of like,
Yes.
okay, what is bubbling up? I mean, then it's a
Mhm.
whole other exercise to think, well, why do you think that, or
Mhm.
why is that coming up? Well, okay, how about for the child then? When adults are acting more in this way, where they are observing, supporting, seeing what is right there,
Mhm.
what kind of freedom, what kind of environment is created? How is that beneficial for the children? Yeah.
Before the physical environment, there's this shift, this beautiful magical shift within the soul, the heart, the mind of the child. Like they start to believe. This belief flares up in them that they're capable. Like, I can do things. I can struggle. I can get over it. I can feel an emotion. I can work through it. I can fall. I can get back up again. I can pull myself up. There is something so powerful about believing in yourself, and no one outside of yourself can do that for you. We can set the conditions, we can give the
Hmm.
permissions, we can allow them to explore the experiences that make that happen. But there's nothing that we can do outside of them to create this sort of belief outside of them having these type of experiences. And one of the things I'm writing about right now in my newsletter to my parents is just about that shift to capability, that shift when you believe. And I'm looking through my pictures from last week, and I'm looking at children who went from I can't, help me, to watching them carrying stacks of lumber, like, oh, tongue sticking out, working hard, dropping it down on the bike, going back and getting more. And this robust belief in themselves. And that spills over to everything. That spills over to learning, academic learning. It spills over to engagement with other people in life. It spills over to everything, like every corner of your life. If you have that positive self image and that belief in yourself, there's no stopping you. So it
Hmm.
just festers inside of them and boils and bubbles over. And right now I'm seeing it in so many of my children that it's boiling and bubbling over. Watched a little girl the other day, and I remember a couple weeks ago, the kids started taking a little tire and putting it down the slide. And one of the dads came to pick up, and he almost lost his mind when he watched his daughter pick up the tire and hold it. And he's like, wait a minute, let me hold. That's pretty heavy. Like he couldn't believe that she could do it.
Hmm.
And it's because in their life, he's never experienced her doing it. She's
Mm-hmm.
never gotten the message from him that she needs to, because in our heads we see children and we think, they need us to do all these things. And it's great to be codependent when you need to be codependent, but it's also so wonderfully freeing to be independent when your body needs to try something yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just
Mm-hmm.
beautiful to see her in that way.
Wow. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then for those children to feel capable,
Mhm.
and then, as you said, as they move on in life, I feel
Yeah.
like that, for me, I feel like that is probably one of the big foundations of early childhood education, is that just finding children finding that center, finding
Yep.
in tune, being having that confidence, learning about themselves, and learning
Mhm.
I can do it, or I can
Yeah.
fall and I can get back up, or I can make a choice. When you think about the 3-year-old being with 5-year-olds doing wild stuff, and the 3-year-old might be,
Mhm.
I'm not quite ready, but as
Yeah.
then they become 5-year-olds, and then on and on
Mhm.
in life. And versus, I mean, it's such an interesting thing, because adults who are with children and then have that nervousness of what's going to happen, and they stop, it's good intentioned, right? Then they might think their job is to protect and,
Mhm.
stop bad things from
Mhm.
happening, and so they react. And yet, really, for children's long-term life, there's
Yeah.
that natural spirit and flow. We want
Mhm.
them to develop that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They will self-assess in so many instances. I mean, I'm not saying let them go and close your eyes and don't, and just they'll be okay. No. You
Yeah,
do need to
yeah,
watch. You do need to be
yeah,
available. You
yeah,
do need
yeah.
to show them the edge of something sometimes,
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
are experienced in this world in ways that
yeah,
they're not.
right.
But it's so powerful for them to, when it's safe, find the edge. And
Yeah.
realize that's the edge, and next time don't go to it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
part of the learning. Fall down and get back up again. So, and it's also very
Hmm.
important for a child to try something and fail, like to not succeed every time, to
Mm-hmm.
experience the hunger that grows inside of you when you really want to do something. Like, and it's so hard for parents sometimes. Like, I have a little guy who really wanted to get to the top of the dome, and his mom really wanted to put him on the top of the dome because he really wanted to. And in all his experience, she'd do it, but because they're standing at Discovery, she can't. So it's this balance of her wanting to really make that happen for him, and him needing to experience the entire process it takes to get up there. But
Mm-hmm.
man, when he got up there, he was so proud of himself. And his body now understands how to do it. It's that
Mm-hmm.
memory that your body holds, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
how to do it, because he practiced again and again and again and again. So he's not going to fall,
Mm-hmm.
because his body, his muscles, his mind has practiced the movements it needed to get up there 100 times. And each time he's developing a larger belief in himself, a larger understanding that, you know what, I failed, I'm gonna come back and do it again. But if someone always does it for you, you don't start to develop that. And then that's going to show up in college. You're going to fail and you're going to lose your mind. You're not going to know how to come back from failure. And that is a big part of what we're doing here as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going through real life experiences,
Hmm.
and yeah, the idea of failing sometimes, but
Hmm.
they're doing it in a safe environment with
Yeah.
loving adults that are
Yes.
there as
Yes.
guides, as support. I
Hmm.
mean, that's what more could you ask for
Hmm.
in life? And it's interesting also thinking again about that retreat center metaphor, but also the reality of it, of
Hmm.
like, I mean, here it is, a retreat center, like you are the guides as they are voyaging in life, and you are there to support them and to pick them up and to, cheer them on or show them that edge. And if people are
Hmm.
doing, it's a place where people go on retreat, and the same thing. If you're
Yeah.
lucky enough to have a guide that's kind of, giving you some things to think about or showing you the edge, ooh, and you
Hmm.
want to keep going and yeah,
Hmm.
exploring. And yeah, so that's really beautiful. Okay, so let me ask then the big question that is often on people's minds when, I mean, so we're talking about the beauty of it and why and how that is so important, and we see that. Now, people who see pictures of your place, or even this idea of from going up slides and these kind of riskier things, and adults having these ideas, preconceived ideas in the back of their
Hmm.
minds, the question, of course, is licensing.
Hmm.
People think, oh, I'd love to do that kind of stuff, but when a licensor walks in here and sees
Mm-hmm.
the grass tall, or
Mm-hmm.
all these loose boards and kids with
Mm-hmm.
tires on slides,
Mm-hmm.
what has been your approach, and how do you have relationships with licensing to see it through?
I've been doing this way for myself for 15 years or so now, half
Hmm.
my career. And I've never once had a licensing person, and I could just be lucky, but I really think it has more. I've never once had a licensing person question or say anything about any risk or anything going on. The only story I have involved something that was so not risky, which was children skirting across the edge of the fence. So they would put their hands on the top rung and their feet on the bottom rung, and they would skirt across, and it was like a rite of passage. And my specialist was there inspecting, and she's talking to me and asking questions and doing the things that she does. And she looks over and she goes, "Oh, they're gonna have to get down." And I just said, "Why?" That's my magic word. Why?
Hmm.
And she said, "Well, they could fall." And I said, "Well, it's 2 feet off the ground. I think they'll be okay." And I said, "Besides, it's a rite of passage. And by the time they get up there and they can do it, they are good at it." And she's like, "Well, she held on to they could fall." And I kept asking her, "Yes, they could fall. And then what? Like, what's the big deal?" So, because I kept asking and kind of pushing back softly and respectfully, but pushing back, she said, "Well, let me ask my supervisor because I also know the rules. That's a part of it. We need to be
Hmm.
well versed on what the actual rules are because your licensing specialist is going to interpret things how they interpret things through their own lens, and those aren't the rules.
Hmm.
So, and they're not our boss. That's another thing. I feel like for so long I have worked at other programs where it was made to seem like licensing was our boss. They're not.
Yeah.
Um,
Huh.
so they could be a
That's
great
interesting.
partner. They could be a great partner. It's a
Uh-huh.
great relationship to have. Anyway, her supervisor said it was fine. But anyway, the part of the journey with licensing specialists is for them to understand what you're doing here.
Hmm.
And when they hear the intention behind it and they see the passion that you're working with, in my experience, I can't speak to everybody's licensing specialist because I've heard some stories and
Yeah.
I don't know how to help them. But
Yeah.
in my experience, I lead with my passion, I lead with my intention, I lead with the science and the why. So I'm asking them why, but I'm telling them my why at the same time.
Okay.
And then they don't question me because they I have had a specialist say to me, "Between you and me, this is where I would put my kids."
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
they said, because one, the children are happy, they're engaged, they're challenged, but most first and foremost to them is there is intention behind what you're doing. Like
Hmm.
this is important. So if you can convey that information, I think when we act timid or shy or scared or like they're our bosses, that's what we're telling them their relationship is with us.
Yeah.
But when we act confident and we question and we inform politely, respectfully, but inform, I think something shifts. So my one specialist when she retired, and I can't stand when they retire because you never know who you're going to get next and if
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
going to understand this.
Yeah.
But she retired,
Right. You've been working
and
with these people to
I
understand.
know, I
Yes.
know. I've also been really lucky to get people who kind of seem like they get it a little bit. But she was retiring, and I was like, "No, don't go." And she said, "Well, everybody in the office knows discovery is different, so I
Uh-huh.
think you just got to establish yourself as you're different."
Well, it also sounds like yeah, okay. And by doing that, it sounds like you take an active role
Hmm.
in those when they come. You're
Yeah,
not passive, just watching them walk around
yeah.
and look at things
Nope.
and check things on the clipboard. You're very active.
I'm there. I'm talking to them. I am when they're looking at one thing, I'm talking to them about why the other things happening. And also that relationship starts before they first come. Like when you're opening the program, you're sending paperwork, you're discussing, the differences, discussing your nuances, you're inviting them to look at your website, you're just establishing a relationship. Like anything else, I think the relationship that you have with your licensing specialist is important. And
Hmm.
if I can't do this work this way, then I can't do this work. So I think that helps drive me too. Because it's like this way or no way.
Yeah, so you just you let the passion come out and the
hmm
philosophy come
hmm
out and the whys and
One other thing that I think that I do, and I do it intentionally, is cross my T's and dot my I's, because they need to see that this is a safe environment. This is a challenging environment. This is a safe environment.
mhm.
So I go above and beyond with letting that be shown or known or expressing that. So if I'm talking about children climbing on things, I'm talking about their core and why it's important that they're barefoot. And
Mm.
I'm making sure that they understand that a lot of this is coming from a place of safety. So that I think when your mindset is that someone's flippant, that they're just letting their grass grow because they don't care, or they have these loose parts because this junk materials is because, like, you need to shift their mindset from thinking that this is because you don't care and
Yeah.
because it's a lack of intention, to understanding it's such a deep intentional practice, and then it shifts everything.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, in some ways you're helping them do their job
hmm
and then feeling confident about saying, "Oh, because you're saying this is all intentional. This isn't accidental." But when
hmm
they come in, they've seen all these centers and programs and people's, they don't know. And
hmm
something could have tall grass growing and junk loose
hmm
stuff all over the place,
hmm
and they have to make a judgment, right?
yeah,
And
yep.
so
They've
the
never
judge.
seen it. Their first judgment is, what in the heck is going on here?
Yeah, get that clipboard out and start.
uh-huh.
So the difference then is the adult, the
hmm
person, the director, the educator, the
hmm
provider. Do they know what they're doing? Is this intentional or why?
yeah.
And so not only the philosophy and the why, but the experiences, and then also like the supervising. How are you
hmm
keeping it safe? And they were like, oh,
hmm
okay, this person. I can just imagine you just like coming
yeah.
right at them with all
Uh-huh.
this info, and they're like, okay, this is on
Okay, we
purpose.
trust you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And at the same time, for a lot of people, that can be very intimidating having, the license or, regulators come in and,
Oh, don't get me wrong. When they show up, I'm shaking. The first few minutes, I'm like, oh, they're here. And I
uh-huh,
and it's the initial freak out. But
yeah.
then I kind of like, okay, get your stuff together, girl. You got a
Uh-huh.
job to do here.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. For so many people in the early childhood world, that's not why they got into it. They wanted the
Yes.
work is with the children and all that,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I always say like we adults have to do the boring stuff
Yep.
or the challenging stuff. Maybe that's the
Mm-hmm.
most challenging thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that again, that retreat, so we can create the retreat area center for children to have the authentic experience in
Yeah.
their life. Yeah. So that's
Mm-hmm.
part of it, holding back,
Yep. Holding.
yeah
Yes.
the
Mm-hmm.
world that would write things up. Well, Keisha, thank you so much.
Thank you. I loved it. That was wonderful.
Yes. Hey, yay.
Yay.
All right. All right. Well,
Thank you
yeah.
so much,
Yeah.
Rusty.
All
I
right.
loved it.
Thanks,
All right.
Keisha.
Bye bye.
All right. Thanks for listening. Do you have a comment or a question? Email me at playnaturepodcast@gmail.com. You know I like talking about this stuff. And maybe we could use your question on a future podcast episode. As always, I have some free goodies for you in the show notes, including my outdoor loose parts guide. Fun stuff in there. And so I wish you the best in your outdoor play adventures. And when it comes to adding nature to your yard, or loose parts, or saying yes to risky play, my favorite motto is dream big, start small, and never stop. Oh yeah. Woo, 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 woo. Let's do it. All right. Have fun out there.